Hey Guardians, I just want to let everyone know that I do have both a Twitch and a Twitter, and I'm very active on both. Feel free to come give me a follow on both, links in the description. This is a contender for the best legendary shotgun in the game, and now that we have the two big exotics of the season out of the way, I finally get to talk about it. Now listen, I hardly ever review special weapons, mainly because special weapons are pretty well solved across the board, especially for PvP and largely for PvE as well. Snipers, snapshot opening shot, or snapshot Vorpal if you're accurate enough, fusions, under pressure, slide shot, kickstart, maybe high impact reserves, shotgun, slide shot, or a handling perk and opening shot. Same with shotguns for PvE really, 1-2 punch on a Warband or Titan and you're pretty well good to go. Special weapons are just generally less interesting to talk about than primaries. But this shotgun is still interesting to me, mainly because this is our only craftable precision frame shotgun in the game. You can of course obtain this weapon from activities in the Pale Heart, 5 red borders, and you can craft it, or if you get your desired roll then just enhance the perks and move on. Now yes, I know grinding red borders like this can be a slog given that this mainly involves a whole lot of overthrow and focusing engrams with Ghost, but this shotgun is worth it, at least if you're a PvP player. So really quick, let's get PvE out of the way because there isn't a whole lot to talk about here. There are some options here, though nothing exactly game-changing. In the third column, you have Lead from Gold, which is probably the best overall option here. Strategist, which will give you class ability energy on kills, maybe an option if you're using a build that focuses on your class ability. Then in the fourth column, Vorpal, Cascade Point, or Recombination. Is this shotgun worth it for PvE? As it stands right now, probably not. For a general purpose utility weapon, Heritage exists with Reconstruction and Recombination, and no 1-2 punch on Someday means it's pretty well dead on arrival for a Warband or Titan, or honestly really any melee build, especially when the Wastelander and Swordbreaker exist. Now, this might be a fun option for PvE, but definitely not a top tier choice, not even close. There's a long list of special weapons I'd take in PvE over Someday. Now, PvP on the other hand, this gun is a monster. If you were to ask me what the best legendary precision frame shotguns in PvP are prior to Someday, I would have said Fractithus, then Matador. Fractithus because it has slide shot and opening shot and quick draw opening shot. Matador, of course, threat detector and opening shot. Yes, Matador is in the energy slot, but it's comparable enough that I'm including it here anyway. So let's start by taking a look at base stats. The most important stats on a PvP shotgun are range and handling. What you prioritize will largely depend on how you play. Handling, then range if you're using the shotgun defensively or for cleanups. Range, then handling if you're just using it to ape people. So taking a look at base stats, Someday has 68 range at base, Matador has 65, and Fractithus has 62. Then for handling, Someday has 40, Matador has 43, and Frac has 41. So stats are fairly comparable, though Someday does beat Matador handily with aim assist at 74, where Matador is at 65, and it's comparable to Frac at 72. And yes, even on a pellet shotgun, aim assist does matter. It's part of why Frac is just more consistent than Matador. But on top of that, Someday also has a very, very good perk pool, and one role in particular that really sets it apart. That role comes with something of a catch, but it has the potential to make it the best PvP legendary pellet in the game. So for your barrels and mags, what you will pick here really depends on what you have in the third column, and we'll get to that because there's really two roles here I'd recommend above all else. Third column, threat detector and LE cap. Fourth column, opening shot. You do have barrel constrictor here, but barrel constrictor is a kill perk, and for a defensive shotgun, consistency is king, and Someday really thrives as a defensive shotgun. So because of that, opening shot still wins here. Vorpal is also there, and I've used Vorpal shotguns to shut down supers before, but you have to ask yourself if you really want to put yourself close enough to a super to use a Vorpal pellet shotgun, especially when conditional can do the same thing but better. So obviously opening shot is my first choice here. So let me start off by saying again that Someday excels as a defensive shotgun. If you're just using your shotgun to run in like a brain dead ape, looking at my Titan mains here, then a shotgun with slide shot is the better option. So the first role I'll recommend as a general use role, meaning one you could use with any subclass, would be barrel shroud, accurized rounds, threat detector, and opening shot with a range or handling masterwork depending on preference. Given that opening shot will help your range and you'll have opening shot procced most of the time on a shotgun. I would take handling. Though if you're on Ophidian aspects or an exotic class item with Spirit of Ophidian or any exotic that helps your handling, then range is probably the better option. Now, of course, it's no secret I'm only a fan of threat detector on shotguns that do not have access to quick draw, which is unfortunately most of our shotguns these days. But this weapon can get enhanced perks, and in my experience at least, enhanced threat detector performs noticeably better, so it isn't really that bad here. And of course, if you combine this with a fast handling primary and some dex mods, you'll be fine. So with this first roll, your range is 6.4 meters with opening shot and a handling masterwork. With a range masterwork, it goes up to 6.71 meters. Your base handling is 50. With one stack of threat detector, you're at 71, with a ready speed of 0.26 seconds, and with two stacks, you're at 96, giving you a ready speed of 0.17. Keep in mind that is just the base version. Unfortunately, I can't find any solid numbers on how much better enhanced threat detector is. Now, of course, this is a good roll on par with something like Matador, but there is a very specific roll here that I like even more. So let me ask you, how does 95 range and 100 handling at all times sound to you? Because someday can do that, but there is a slight catch. For this roll, you're looking at corkscrew rifling, accurized rounds, and a range masterwork. Fourth column is still opening shot, but the big star here is Ellicap. With Ellicap and opening shot enhanced on this weapon and the slight stat boost you get from having both perks enhanced, you can hit that 95 range and 100 handling mark. But the catch is you have to be on an arc subclass or prismatic with an arc super. Now for me, this is not a problem. I love prismatic hunter, and the new arc super for hunter is absolutely insane, probably too strong for what it is. And I will say I do think the arc subclasses as a whole have been made all but irrelevant by prismatic, but all three prismatic classes have decent enough arc supers, granted again at the cost of a slower cooldown. Obviously for some that catch probably isn't worth it, but just so we're clear, with that roll, this is the most consistent defensive legendary shotgun I've ever used. Max handling plus quick access sling makes this weapon feel like it has quick draw. Couple that with a high handling primary or even a slower primary with some dex mods and or an exotic that boosts your handling, and it almost feels like OG quick draw before the perk got gutted. And with that high range, you have 6.5 meters of range, and with opening shot that goes up to 100, taking you to 6.7 meters. So, for those of you who are willing to take advantage of it, this is the best feeling defensive shotgun in the entire game, and it's not even close. I've mostly been pairing this with my Palindrome, and they feel amazing together, but I've also used this with Igneous, Red Death, Repose, and the BXR among others, and it feels just as good with them as well. Now, if you don't want to use an Arc subclass or Prismatic with an Arc Super, then the other role I mentioned is still perfectly serviceable, though in that case, I still think if you have a quick draw opening shot frac that you're better off using that, since quick draw is still just more consistent than threat detector. But of course, if you don't have a Fractithus like that, then you're probably better off with Someday, given that frac is basically unobtainium now since you're completely at the mercy of Zur engrams or drops from dares, and no one's RNG is that good. Now, as far as general performance goes, like I said, this shotgun feels so goddamn good. That's not to say it's perfect. I'm not really a fan of the chunky weapon model and the lack of sights, and pellet shotguns tend to be rather consistent as a whole. And yes, this shotgun still whiffed some one-shot kills it absolutely should not have, but I will say it still feels more consistent than any of my other legendary shotguns. Now, yes, obviously conditional is still king, but if you're using an exotic energy primary or an exotic heavy and you want a shotgun in your back pocket, then Someday is still an S tier pick without question. So, if you want a good kinetic slot legendary PvP pellet shotgun, then look no further than Someday. This shotgun is incredible and it is well worth the grind for those red borders. But that's all from me today, Guardians. Shorter review, but like I said at the start, there typically isn't as much to say about on special weapons, especially for PvP. But if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and leave me a comment with your thoughts on this weapon. Don't forget to hit that like button, and the best way you can support this channel is to subscribe with the bell icon and share this video with anyone who you think might find it helpful or entertaining. But for now, I'll see you all in the next one. Peace, Guardians.